Today we're going to talk about feeling hopeless and helpless and overwhelmed as a leader and what to do about it. I'm Stacey Dye, and this is the leadership we need now, a space where we talk about kind, caring, and courageous leadership. I've been a nonprofit director, executive coach, and strategist for over 20 years, and I'm here to share some of the experiences and skills and things I've learned over the years and along the way. If you're in a leadership position, if you are leading a team or a group or an organization or a company or even your household, there is no doubt that you feel the overwhelm, the dread, the helplessness, and the hopelessness that is happening in the world today. It feels as though the world is on fire, and every day you're just trying to find your sea legs. You're trying to figure out how to handle, how to navigate through the rough waters that are coming, the waves, the constant feeling of instability. If you are leading something right now, if you are the one that is making decisions about what to do next, about what is happening in the moment, about how to adapt, how to change, how to strategize, if you are in that position right now, you are probably feeling this overwhelming amount of dread and hopelessness and helplessness. And so as we go through this, going through it together does help, does make you feel like you're not alone, does make it feel like you're not failing or that you are also not doing something that you should be doing, or you're doing something that you shouldn't be doing. Whatever it is important that we're doing these things together. It is important to have real conversations. It's important to be authentic, not for the sake of making other people fearful or making other people uncomfortable, but if we don't face the problem, we can't fix it either. And so as we're dealing with a lot of these things, just having the grace and understanding that the world right now is not normal. Things that are happening are not normal. Costs going up on everything is not normal. Having, worries about your individual rights, worrying about saying something and it being used against you in a negative way, worried that funding today could be cut tomorrow, that services that you've been providing can become illegal tomorrow. With the change in the weather, things can happen. Natural disasters aren't being handled the way that they were. It's just, you could list out a million things in a million ways that your nervous system is probably on fire. And if it's not, maybe you should do some self-evaluation because the world is on fire. So as we're doing this, as we're thinking about this, finding strategies, finding ways, finding your community, finding people to help us through this together is going to be really important, because people do not have the answers. No one has the answers. Everyone should just be going into the world thinking, I am not 100% sure on anything, but on this, I'm 51% sure. So we're going to move forward with that. Or I have done all the research. I've done all of the legwork. I've done all the things that I can do. I can't with certainty do anything moving forward. So I have to just use all of my skill sets, all of my intuition, all of my gut instinct, and follow what I think will be next moving forward. That is such a terrible place to live, because it doesn't give you any downtime. It doesn't give you any time to relax into the work and do the work well. It only gives you this constant feeling of fear, feeling of, making a wrong decision, doing the wrong thing, not doing enough, doing too much, and at the cost of your own capacity too. At some point in time, we all have our limits, all have our capacity. And even somebody who, quote unquote, has a lot of capacity in this moment, you add a bunch of work, you add a bunch of responsibility, you add a bunch of changes, there goes their capacity, because that's what they're spending it on. And so if we're in a place where we're constantly feeling like this, how do we find the hope? How do we find the resilience? How do we find the support that we need? And I think it starts with things like this, finding things that can adjust to your rhythm, adjust to what's happening in your life, so that you don't feel like you're not doing enough. Sometimes when I watch wellness shows or health shows, or I watch leadership programs, or I listen to people who've been successful in business, I actually feel worse a lot of times. I don't feel inspired. I feel like, God, look at what they did. They had the same, opportunities I had, sometimes way less. And this is all I've done with it. You look at their success and think, God, mine is only this much and they're doing this much. If I just worked harder, if I just was smarter, if I learned another skill, if I could do more, if I could, whatever it is, I feel like that comparison piece always kicks in, and it never feels like when I watch an expert that actually resonates all the time with me. I learn so much from people, but sometimes I learn like the lessons I'm taking in are kind of like, you're not doing enough. You're not enough. You're not handling this right. And when I think about this time, this timeline, these moments in history, there has not been a time, even when we experience things like recessions or COVID and shutdown and things like that, those things still had stability in it. It still had the fact that a lot of people did still keep their jobs. They still did keep their healthcare. They still did keep a lot of the stability things that really allow you to thrive were kept in place. In this moment, with insurance premiums going up, the cost of healthcare going up, the fear of losing your healthcare, the fear of losing any kind of care, all of our safety nets are being affected. And so even if you're not working in the field, in the nonprofit field or the service field or the education field, you are feeling the hits of all these things to your nervous system, to your body. And so anybody giving advice about what the perfect way is to handle this, doesn't know shit. So I'm certainly not here to do that today, but to say, listen, we've got to figure this stuff out together. We've got to find community. We've got to find a way to work together where we can make these huge problems more manageable and more stabilizing for all of us. And so that is going to take us collectively working together, us being able to carve out time to think, to strategize, and to be in some of the best shape of our lives in order to fight back in some of these ways. And that is the appropriate terms. We're trying to fight back, because a lot of this stuff is not right. A lot of this stuff is not done with precision or the desire to make it better. It's done with the desire to hurt, to harm, to keep us in a certain place. And so if people that are leading with kindness, courage, compassion, if they don't figure out, if we can't collectively figure out how to strategize and to move forward and to build community and to build resilience and to build a framework of how to move forward, we will just continue in this hamster wheel of just being responsive to whatever happens to us, that we don't have control, that we don't have a say, that we don't have a voice. And that voice and that say and that control gets less and less every single day. And so this isn't necessarily a political video. This is saying, listen, we are human beings. We need to fight for human beings. We need to fight for our planet. We need to fight for animals. We need to fight for safety and stability and common care. And if we're going to do that, we've got to carve out time for that. We have got to spend time, even though you feel overwhelmed. We cannot get pulled into the weeds with this. And so when you feel the overwhelm, when you feel frustrated, helpless, and hopeless, we still have to kind of move on. We still have to move forward. And so what I need all of us to start thinking about is, how do we collectively do that? How do we collectively strategize for good? How do we strategize for the well-being and the good of all? How do we help? How do the helpers strategize? What do we do with think tanks, with the people that are kind and caring and that want to help people? Why don't we have think tanks with them? Why aren't we having these conversations? Is it because we feel so hopeless? I mean, I live in West Virginia, so it is that feeling of like, you know, it's not good if it's coming here. And so how do we pull together? How do we spend time thinking about what could be, what should be, what we could create when we feel like this, when we feel so overwhelmed, when we feel disrespected and we feel like, you know, people are asking us to do more with less. They're asking us to do the impossible. Even when we do the impossible, it's then seen as not enough, or it's seen as like, well, yeah, that's fine. Let me pat you on the head, but we can't keep funding that, or we can't contribute to that because we did that one year. And we don't want to spoil you. We don't want you to feel comfortable. We don't want you to feel confident in the work you do. We want to keep you feeling nervous and afraid and starving, so that, you know, if collectively we work together, if collectively we thought together, if we had a shared collective spirit and thinking about things, what could we do? And that's dangerous. And I think that if we can figure out a way to start thinking about what's possible, what needs to happen, I think we also still have to be very realistic of the what is, not the what should be. And so what is less money, less respect, less credibility, less opportunity. But how do we live there? How do we live in that and still make sure that we can show up every day, that we can be the partner, parent, friend, child, sibling, that we need to be, community member that we need to be, and do a good job? And I think that it comes from building community. First and foremost, we need to do that. We need to figure that out, where we can separate ego, where we can separate the have and the have-nots. Because a lot of time the have-nots do not get a say, even in the world of nonprofits, big nonprofits. It's a similar economy. It's a similar system. If you've got more staff, more money, more opportunity, you get a bigger voice. If you are the little guy, you're not seen and respected in the same way. But how do we come together in a neutral space where we can collectively talk about strategies and ways to move forward? Because we need it. We need people to show up and create and innovate and think and build and do all of these things for good. We don't just have to do those things for bad things that harm others. You know, we could build a healthcare system, an education system, a social service system. We could build all those things if you put really smart people who care and who understand it and who have the skill set in a room. If we build think tanks around that, you're going to get a whole different idea of the future versus what you have now, which is people who don't know, who don't do the work, who don't understand, or so far removed from the service or the resource, telling us how things should be done. And then when that doesn't solve every problem that humanity can't solve with your $10,000, then they punish, remove, change, alter, whatever. And so as we think about this, our collective voice is important. Our ability to persevere, our ability to be resilient, our ability to carve out energy, time, and resources for thinking and creating and building, especially collectively, is so important now. And as we're doing things, and how we do those things is we've got to find each other. We have got to, again, share things like this, find ways to meet up. We have got to make sure that we're still dreaming, still creating, still believing that there can be good, and then start to think about putting our resources, our money, our time, our energy into that, not just constantly into cleaning out the bottom and fixing the bottom of the problem. And so as we're doing this, it's really important to continue this conversation. This is just the conversation starter for me. And I think even as we're building what we're doing, this is a part of how I want to move things forward, is not just information out, but how do we collectively have conversations? How do you not just listen, everybody's got an opinion. Everybody has an idea of how something should happen. How do we put people in the room who are then not just going to share ideas and share what other people should do, but sit down and be like, let's get to work. Let's do the hard stuff. Let's be uncomfortable. Let's know that we're putting ourselves in the front and that this is a difficult time to do that. And so as we're building this, make sure to like, share, subscribe, do those things, but also send me messages. I do receive messages and emails about some of the stuff. When I see people, they definitely talk about it. But I think it's about, if you see me, if you want to say, I'm in, I want to do this kind of work, I want to talk about this, I think it's important. I think it's important to have the people who are confident talking about this stuff, but I think it's also important to have people that are new to the field, new to this work, new to contribution in a community level, to also have a seat and a voice, and to be able to be listened to and respected. But then let's move forward. Let's make plans. Let's do things. Let's change things. Let's change the world for the better, for once, for the better. So thank you for watching, and I'm thinking about all of you and sending all my good vibes your way. Thanks.